Hello, everyone, wherever it is that you are listening. This is Sunday Scaries. And I am so excited to be on here today. No matter where it is that you are watching from, if you are watching on Instagram, if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're watching from my community chat, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are live for Sunday Scaries. Now, if you are new to Sunday Scaries, every Sunday I go over different topics to help you navigate the work week and, feel supercharged because sometimes Sundays can be scary. And we're talking about a really important topic today that I am really excited to dive into because I've already done a couple videos about this and I want to do a deep dive today because I've gotten a lot of requests to do a deep dive. So if you're watching, hey, y'all, I see some folks say, listen, cooking spaghetti. I know that's right. Getting ready for the week. I see folks on Instagram. Welcome, welcome. And if you're watching on YouTube, hello. We're going to dive right in. But first, I want to say that if you're part of my newsletter community and you saw the messages that I shared about Sunday Scaries, typically it is at 7 p.m. Central, but today we are trying something new because we know 7 p.m. can be a little late on Sundays. So we're trying 6 p.m. And let me know in the comments how you feel about this time because we're going to jump right into the work. Okay. So I'm actually going to put up on my screen um a uh a this is what we're going to be talking about today. So what we're talking about today are gaps in resumes. I cannot tell you ever since I made the video last week and then I made another video today talking about resume gaps, I have been so appreciative of the amount of comments that have asked me, Beverly, can you do a deeper dive about this? Can you talk a bit more about resumes? And what exactly we should be doing and looking for, especially if we have gaps in our resumes. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to do a deep dive. So like I said, if got some people in the comments getting food together, getting their stuff together, we're going to talk about this live today. So, first and foremost, if you have a gap in your resume, I want to start off by saying that is nothing to be ashamed of. Many, many, many people have gaps in their resume. Either they've been unemployed for a long period, especially in this hiring market. Maybe they're a caregiver. Maybe they were a stay-at-home parent. Maybe they were on disability and needed time away. Whatever your reason is, I can't stress enough that I want you to do the work to dismantle any prejudgments that you have because it's hard. It is hard being out of the workforce and coming back in, especially with the craziness that is this market right now. So today I'm going to demonstrate some of these different resumes. And if you are a student or somebody that you love is a post grad, please stick around because I am talking to them too. I have a resume template here for that student as well. So we're going to cover a couple of different topics. The other thing I want to make sure I mention before we dive in is that by midnight tonight, if you I created a strategic gap framework template and template guide that you can get for $3, not 30, not 300, not 1300, $3. I made this as accessible as possible, and it is going to be $3 until midnight tonight. So if you have not grabbed yours yet, and you think you could benefit from this resource, please head to my link in bio to grab it so that you can take advantage of that $3 price point and start working on updating that gap tonight after we talk together. So diving right on in, I want to talk about this resume for a minute because this is somebody who has been a caregiver. You can see here that they're listing their qualifications. So maybe you're somebody who has been caregiving for a long time. Maybe you had an ailing parent, maybe an ailing child. You had to step away from work. And there's a couple of key elements that I want to talk about in relation to this resume that I feel like a lot of people in the interview process and the hiring profit process um, may not realize is actually going to help them be able to stand out, especially with these ATS systems. The first thing that I want you to pay attention to is that at the beginning of their summary of qualifications, they immediately validate their years of experience because just because you weren't in a job that was paying you per se during that time does not mean you weren't working. And I can't stress that just be like you were working, right? And so you want to ensure that that is properly communicated in the resume because you were working for that time. And so you can see right here at the top, it says 8+ years of progressive patient and healthcare operations experience developed through comprehensive patient caregiving management with demonstrated expertise in patient support, care coordination, and clinical documentation. All of these things are correct. If you were coordinating the appointments for the person that you were caring for, if you were taking care of the logistics, if you were administering medicines, any of these things all qualify for patient care expertise. And if you have been struggling in this job search process with finding um roles that align with your gap and you've been a caregiver, look up patient care support, home health aid work, CNA work, MA work. Some require certifications but others don't. Others are entry level. It can give you a starting point so you have cash flow while you are making your transition back into the workforce. So that's why this language is being used. Continuing on, though, you can see I have clearly demonstrated their proficiency with different tools, right? If you're sending emails back and forth with their provider, include those tools that you use. For example, Epic. If you have to use the Epic portal to communicate with the healthcare providers, you can put Epic down. If you have other tools that you've used, like I have here Microsoft Office and others, all of those tools count because what you're doing is you're communicating to the hiring manager and through these ATS systems that you absolutely are comfortable with these different tools. You've used them on the user side. And so throughout the past 8 years, you've had this experience. Here is one key tip that I really want to ensure that you walk away with as you are, reframing your gap. If a job description says 8+ years of experience and you have been a caregiver for 10, I want you to put 8+ years of experience. Same thing goes if they're looking for somebody with 3+ experience and you have 20 years of experience, you're gonna put 3. The reason for that is because these ATS systems are very sensitive. What constantly gets misrepresented in the media, and especially with other creators that I have seen who have called themselves so called experts, is they say that, just put the keywords, put the keywords, put the keywords. But these systems can assess context now. They can assess whether or not that you were actually doing that work for that period of time, but they also can assess if you are applicable for the role. So you might say, oh, I want to really let them know I really can do this job, so I'm going to say 10 or 20 or whatever, but say exactly what they ask for to help you bypass these systems a little bit easier. We're going to go into the experience section for a minute because I want to talk about these subcategories. I've gotten a lot of questions on these subcategories, and I want to talk about why they're my preferred method. I've been doing this my entire career, actually, literally since graduate school. This is how I have formulated my resume. And the reason why I have formulated my resume like this is for two major reasons. The first is that I want to tell my story seamlessly, no matter if a human is looking at it or an AI tool or whatever is looking at it. I want to be able to properly communicate the storytelling of my levels of expertise. And unfortunately, with a ton of block text, a ton of, bullet points that are just running down a long list, it does not organize because I'm an operator, right? So I want things to be organized. It doesn't properly organize the storytelling that I want to tell about like where I want your eyes to be. The second reason that I do it this way is for keyword categorization. If you are looking at a job description and it says that they are looking for somebody, in this case, with patient care coordination and clinical support, you want that to be the subheader for your jobs on that on your resume, and then have bullets underneath that confirm the context. Remember, these ATS systems can absolutely discern context. So if you say that you've been a patient care coordinator in this case, but you don't have anything on that resume that really communicates that storytelling, you could accidentally be getting kicked out of the system, right? And not be seen. And so you can see here, I have three major subcategorizations for the resume, and then I have bullet points organized based off of those subcategories. The same thing would apply if you have a gap in your resume. And you can see I have some examples here, right? Where under healthcare operations and appointment management, coordinate medical appointments, treatment schedules, and healthcare logistics across multiple providers and healthcare systems, utilizing scheduling systems to prevent conflicts and ensure timely care. I'm nearsighted. And I'm looking at it on my screen. So if you have been somebody who had to coordinate all of those things, right? If you use all these different systems, it absolutely qualifies you to be able to communicate that you could do them again on the business side. And make sure if you have any questions on Instagram or on YouTube, feel free to ask them. My moderator, Savannah, is on paying attention to what floats into the chat, as well as, answering any question or providing any technical support if you're having trouble looking at the live. So continuing on, right? I want to highlight here that, as you can see on the resume, this person then replicates, right, those keywords for the next role. You're not just doing the subheaders for the most recent gap on your resume. You're then going to parlay that to previous roles that you've done as well. Obviously, in this instance, right, this person is choosing a patient caregiving route, but I want to empower you that uh, if you are going to choose a different route, you would use subheaders and subheaded keywords to reflect that next step, right? I'm now going to jump over to the stay-at-home mom. So if you are a stay-at-home mom or somebody that you love as a stay-at-home mom, and also reentering the workforce and concerned about the gap, this is an example of how you can represent your work here as well. So this person again has 8 years of progressive facilities and property management experience. What's really important about this is a reframing of what you have done as a stay-at-home parent. Again, that is properties management. That is facilities management. It's operations coordination. It's vendor management. It's travel and logistics. It's executive assisting. There's so many different elements. I got a really, really great question on Instagram in my comment section, who said, okay, I understand how to fill these things out, but what do I do about the job? Like, what do I say is the company? There are a couple of different ways that you can go about communicating the organization. The first is you can put your family name, so whatever it is, your last name, and then so it would be like my last name's Dines, so like Dines family offices or Dines family properties, because that's correct. And then you would put the city and the state. You could also include the town you're in, so your town property management, or your hometown, I should say, too, to be more localized. You can put your street name with the property and your last name for the offices. There's a bunch of creative ways that you can go about it, but that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is you are communicating in your gap how your work was applicable to what it is that you are going to be looking to do. And if you are a stay-at-home parent that maybe beforehand you were in marketing or you were in another industry that isn't quite as close in this hiring market, I know nobody else will probably tell you this, but I want you to succeed. I found that when I was unemployed and I was trying to make a transition, I chose what I call an adjacency principle to at least get a check clearing, for lack of a better way to say it. We want these checks cleared. And then once I got a role, I then either grew within that organization or I quickly pivoted out to another organization when I had stability. The same thing would go here. If you are a stay at home parent, administrative assistant roles are going to be huge. Front desk assistants are going to be huge. A virtual customer a care specialist, even customer care management, if you have that previous experience, depending on how long your gap is, that can be a good segue role to get some money rolling in for you and some stability, while you are also um uh thinking about where you actually want to go. And if you're willing to wait a little bit longer, of course, tailor it to where you're looking to go. But you never know, you could be a active front desk manager at a family practice, but then they need a marketing help support, and they need maybe social media support, and you have that expertise from before you were a stay-at-home mom. Now you have a pathway, right? That adjacent pathway to get back to where you want to go, while also keeping the lights on and paying the bills. So that's a realistic way that you can really feed that in, because a lot of these roles and a lot of these examples I have here properly communicate that. Now, diving in a little bit to the subheader. So you can see here administrative operations and facilities management. When you are a stay at home mom, you are running facilities and property management. You're running operations. Like, that's without question. And so, In this case, you can see here I have all of these different examples of where that's happened. But another really key tip that I have for you, if you are thinking about revamping your resume, you've got to include metrics, no matter what the reason is for your employment gap, whether it's because of this scenario or other things. Think about your metrics. Those are the things that are going to stand out on a resume. They're going to stand out for the ATS system. Because it's really really important that you're you're thinking about uh those metrics that can be applicable, if that makes sense. um so here we go. We have a question from Instagram. Do hiring managers actually look down on gaps? You were told to explain that in an interview and leave it off the resume. Thank you so much for this question. Do hiring managers actually look down on gaps? Unfortunately, a lot of what I would say old school, and I really want to be cognizant of not ageism. I'm not talking about people who are of a certain age. I'm talking about folks who were mentored and led by a very outdated method of thinking. There is a privileged perspective, and don't get me heated up. So on Instagram, on YouTube, whoever's watching, don't get me tight, but I'm gonna talk about it. And a very privileged thought process. There is a perspective that you should people who have gaps on their resume either can't network well, aren't well connected, or don't have the skill set to get them the opportunities to quickly land on their feet and get another opportunity. If I had a nickel for every time a senior leader I have worked with has looked at, gave a side eye to somebody having long gaps on their resume or were gone for periods of time because they were whatever the reason, I would be a wealthy woman. And it is not everywhere, but I would say with the old method of thinking, it absolutely is prevalent. I have had experiences where if you see big gaps on a resume, uh, and the person isn't highly specialized, some businesses that I have either seen or worked alongside, they won't even consider them, which is why I'm so passionate about you filling it, because you just don't want that type of bias. Now, frankly, that is, again, very outdated. And now in this hiring market, so many people are struggling to get opportunities right now. So obviously, people are going to be unemployed. I have folks in my community who have been unemployed for 18 months, 2 years even, right? And have been trying to get an opportunity. It's just not realistic anymore to not see gaps. Where you can also, though, this is where things get a little tricky. I've also seen cause to pause. Um, on resumes if they're short gaps. So long gaps, not so much. People, not that it's not so much, but from my experience, long gaps, like there's an expectation, especially if you have a specialized career, that okay, maybe they were unemployed for a period. But if you have a bunch of short gaps, like 3 months here, 4 months here, 6 months here, in succession or close succession, you and I may know that that could have been because of a round of layoffs. Maybe you had layoff after layoff. I actually know people who got to a company 3 months in, they were laid off. They got to their next company, and then a couple months after that, they were laid off again. And it's not your fault. And so, unfortunately, like I said, this is a bias. I've seen it where, oh shoot, there's like four different jumps within the span of 2 years. There does become questions as a hiring manager. So wherever you can fill that is really really important. You don't want to risk leaving it off the resume, because if there is any context that you can fill, like I am teaching you to do today, you want to fill that context so that they know, like, you know what, like this is somebody who absolutely can pick up and hit the ground running. So thank you so much for this question. Continuing on with this resume template, like you can see here, facilities coordination and so on. Like if you are somebody who had to stay home as a stay-at-home parent, obviously facilities coordination comes that. Think about that. You're a vendor manager. You have the exterminators coming in. Maybe you rent, so you have property management you're coordinating with. You're coordinating with facilities when the toilet's broken. There's all kinds of things you're doing. You're staying at home to make sure that your kids have what they need, right? And so there's a lot of facilities management that comes with that, and you want to ensure that you are that's represented here on the resume. And I want to also stress too that for some who hear this and are listening to this Sunday Scaries, they may think, okay, well, you know, this might be a little extra, Beverly. Like, is anybody really gonna, pay attention to this? And you'd be surprised. Like I said, part of the thing that you're doing is actually getting away from the ATS system. You're just trying to feed the system to let it know, like, hey, I can get started tomorrow. A human looking at this, especially if you have a hiring manager who is a parent, or maybe they're like me, who was raised by a stay-at-home mom, and my dad was working. So I know what that's like to have us to have be raised by both my parents. What my dad worked and I had a stay-at-home mom. But my mom was home with me. So as a hiring manager, I'm going to relate to that. I'm going to go, "Oh yeah, I get it. Your goal is to push through um uh those systems so that you can be properly represented in the hiring process, right?" Um so let me just see this really quick. We're going to go into okay. So looks like we have another question here. I'm going to put on screen. And thank you all so much for your questions. And thank you, Savannah, who's been grabbing them so that we can see them here together. All right, another question from Instagram. But what if my gap is due to a long term illness? What do I do if it's due to a long term illness? So here's the reality, right? You want to be honest about what your experience was. And also I'm praying for your recovery. I hope that you are feeling better. I saw that you put in parentheses cancer. And I'm praying that you are healing and on the mend. If you have experienced a long term illness, I absolutely would recommend on your resume, of just very briefly. You don't have to do all of this that we're discussing today because obviously that's excessive. But I would absolutely recommend on your resume, you can either put it in the footnotes or you can include it in the summary of qualifications, kind of as a footnote underneath before the rest of the resume continues, where you highlight gap of 1 to 2 years or however long it was due to um, cancer treatments and cancer programming. Another thing I would recommend is that if you're applying to organizations and you have been away due to long-term illness, I would actually include that in your cover letter. So if they say that there's an optional cover letter option, I would absolutely use your cover letter to communicate the storytelling of what you've experienced, the resilience that you've experienced, why you're ready to come back to work. That's really where you're going to shine. I know that cover letters feel tedious. I know they feel annoying, and I empathize, right? Especially in this market, it's like another thing. But if you have any extenuating circumstances, there are people in my community who have experienced extreme loss, who have had a death in the family, or they were a next of kin, or they lost their spouse suddenly, or their kids suddenly. You can't prepare for those things. And when you are ready to re-enter the workforce, the storytelling in the cover letter is going to be a really powerful place for you to do that organically without necessarily communicating on your resume, all of the reasons why you were in treatment and so on. So I think strategically using the cover letter to tell that story, and your resilience therein is going to be a beautiful way to also talk about your synergy with that business. And I just want to use the time here for a moment to communicate that if you would like for me to review your resume, I do resume review and optimization services as well as education. So if you go to my link in bio, and if you're watching this through our direct link from our newsletter, you can grab an empowerment hour with me. If you and I have never met before, the first session is 50% off. That is correct. It is. I want to remove as many barriers as possible to be able to connect, because I do look at resumes, and what I do is you and I will work together in partnership to first understand, okay, if you're re-entering the workforce, what are our targets? Where are we trying to go? Let's make sure that this resume skeleton is optimized for as many job applications as possible so that you're not doing 30,011, resumes for these job interviews. And then, I can also, I have additional services where I will do it for you. And after we've done the education portion. So if you would like to work together on your resume and really optimizing it in this way to tell that story, same thing goes for cover letters. Head to my link in bio where you can grab an empowerment hour with me. And I do have some availability on Tuesday. So if you want to meet as early as 2 days from now, we are ready to go. Thank you so much for this question. I see here there's another question from the audience. Okay. We're going to pull this up here. What should we and should we not share on a resume? So I think that's really uh that's really complicated because I think what it boils down to is, what you should share is always going to be metrics. It's always going to be your impact. It's always going to be, the data behind the work that you do. I think a lot of people grossly underestimate their value. They underestimate their impact because we're not trained as a society to track our own metrics. We often wait for our leadership to tell us what we're worth. And especially if you are entering from a gap period, you may be looking around and going, okay, how do I communicate what I've been through, what I've been navigating? Think about the metrics. I've spoken, and I'm actually going to jump to a another resume template super quick. That is a student resume, so you can see in a minute. But if you are somebody who has experienced, a large gap, or maybe you're in a gap season right now, I can't stress enough that like the most important thing is okay, looking around and saying, okay, what have I done? What are the things that, if you've been applying to hundreds and hundreds of positions, that's administration. If you have been volunteering, like I said before, you can start now. A lot of people I like to tell you, if you have been uh underemployed, but you have 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week to volunteer at an organization that really aligns with your values. I can't stress enough to do that because that becomes work experience. I cannot stress enough that a lot of understaffed organizations, they would love to, especially mission driven orgs. I'm not talking about work for a company for free, y'all. I'm talking about, animal shelter. Maybe you love animals. Maybe there's a music nonprofit that works with students, whatever it is. You doing that 5 hours a week, that becomes a job description. And then that becomes references for you. And so you can start that now, looking around and saying, you know what, who's in this area that I really feel I could resonate with? But not only that, that becomes networking opportunity for so many of us who are unemployed, who are bogged down by this process. I remember for me, I would spend like 16 hours indoors, never leaving my house. And that is really hard on the spirit when you are applying. So just having 5 hours a week where you're getting outside, or 10 hours a week where you're getting outside, which also becomes work experience, can be really, really helpful. I would not recommend sharing anything that's too personal on your resume. I have seen that before where folks overshare, and I understand it, right? It's a transparency to communicate like, hey, listen, I had life happen and I'm ready to work. Like I've got this. And I understand that. And again, as we are seeing in this hiring market, there is a lack of empathy, y'all. And I know you feel that. I know you know it. There is a massive lack of empathy. And so the last thing that you want is to accidentally turn folks away because they're like, okay, yeah, and even though you and I both know that that's the realism. So those are a couple of examples of what you should and should not share on the resume. Um, Here is the next question before we move on to the student. And thank you so much. These are excellent questions. All right. What if it's personal and you don't want to share the reason for the gap? So, you are not obligated to share anything that you are not comfortable with. I want to stress that as we're talking about gaps today, you are not obligated to talk to these people about the personal reasons why you were out of office. What I care about is what you were doing while you were in the gap. I don't care, like frankly, like it does not it is not their business, frankly. What you were why what is their business is what you were doing. So if you were out on the gap because of disability and you don't want to tell them that you were out on disability, You don't have to tell them that. You can say though, while I had a gap period, for personal, you could say for health related reasons. If you want to keep it general, you could say due to a private family event. People are understanding, but on the resume, what you can show is what you were doing during that time. So, like I mentioned before, any volunteerism, any administrative work you were doing, any freelancing you were doing. Um, Even if you were helping family for free, there's when there's a death in the family, right? For example, when I lost a family member several years ago, my whole family, including myself and several others, we went to that family member's house. We were cleaning out the house. We were doing all these different things. If I had an employment gap during that time, I would be tracking that, the administrative work I was helping with, cleaning the house. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that we were doing. I would have filed that under different categories within my resume to communicate, I'm not going to tell you why I was out, but these were all the things I was doing during the time I was out, and then that reframes your experience so that it's filled. And after that, people aren't going to ask too many questions. They may say to you, "So you weren't working during that time?" And you could say, "Absolutely, I was working," and go right back to all of the things you did do. So I can't stress enough during your interview process, you have autonomy. You are not obligated to communicate anything you don't feel comfortable with. What I am trying to empower you to do is talk about the work that you were doing during that time, and make it applicable to where you are now. Thank you so much for that question. Jumping into the student resume. So I got a lot of questions from folks who are post grad. If you are a parent watching this and you've got a student who's freaking out about this hiring process right now and just does not know, um, where to go, uh, uh, this is going to be really, really huge. You've got to encourage them to include all of the things that they were doing while they were in school. If they did any internships, if they did, and I've had a couple of students who have commented and said, "What if I wasn't spectacular? What if I wasn't interesting? I just was a student." What are you talking about? You finished a course of study. Like, you absolutely have things you can put on here. And I have as an example, right? They were an intern. So this is what they did as an intern at that organization. Special projects they led, right? Student organization president. If they were a president of a student body, they can, or of a club, they can talk about that. Even if the club was a special interest, like for example, I love anime. And like sometimes you'll see, I'll like turn my camera really quick. You can see up here, I've got all of my Sailor Moon stuff. I've got some other anime things. I've got K-pop. Okay. You can say that they know you're a student because you're going to put on their resume that you were a student. But if you were the president or treasurer or vice president of that club, you absolutely should include that on your resume. But let's say you're like Beverly. I did not do anything other than go to school and go home, right? I got my degrees and then I went home. What else were you doing during that time? Were you working full time, right? So I worked full time when I was in graduate school. It was for my graduate assistantship. So yes, I went to school and came home, but in order to pay for that, I was also doing a graduate assistantship full time. What were the things you were doing surrounding that period? Because you absolutely have things that you can fill in that space while you are also getting your degree that are really, really, really important. Um, so for students who are watching this, or any of you who have a student maybe in your care, it's really important to think about. I see we have another question. And like I said, if you want the template to be able to do this yourself, to be able to fill the gap yourself, please head to my link in bio and grab your copy now, or schedule a power hour with me, so that we can look at your situation together. Because it's really, really important that, especially as things keep evolving and changing, like, do not listen to these people who are telling you that it's just keywords. Like, that's not even accurate anymore. Um, and if you head to my link in bio, you can get access to that, or you and I can just meet one on one and crank it out together. So we have another question here. Do hiring managers discriminate by school? I once had a talent acquisition specialist admit that she only looked for tier one schools. Well, first of all, that's bias. Second of all, unfortunately, that can be true. There is a perception around certain schools, but I actually think that it's not what people think it is. So for example, at least in my experience, and I can only speak for my experience, Where I have seen the most discrimination as it relates to school and, frankly, like, if you have a crap ton of experience, I have not seen school as, like, a major barrier in my experience, but I know that in other industries it can be. Um, I've actually seen the most discrimination from online schools, like DeVry, like I think Prairie State is another one. Those types of institutions, I have noticed that if those, uh, like SNHU, um, Capella, like those types of, University of Phoenix, those types of universities, I have seen, folks give a side eye to. And if I am being 100% transparent, very early in my career, I was, also guilty of this bias because of how we're taught, how we're, as especially if if you go into business, if you go into leadership, there is this perception that if you're at these for-profit institutions, that the quality of education isn't as high, and also because there's all of these stipulations. Does that make it true? Does that make it right? Not necessarily. If this is the only way that you can get access to an education, by goodness, like, you earned that, you deserve that, and I'm very glad that I was properly not only checked on that bias, but also did the work to ensure that I'm not carrying that into um my hiring processes. But another group that I've also seen treated poorly in the hiring process are HBCUs and HSIs, Hispanic serving institutions, and historically Black colleges and universities. I have noticed that unless that student has gone to Howard, or Spelman, or Morehouse, that there has been questions about the quality of the education, and even then. And so again, it goes back to ignorance, bias, and absolutely be proud of where you come from. Be proud of the education you received. Be proud that you completed a course of study. Do not let small-minded people stop you from pursuing where you feel your heart is called to be. Small-minded people are going to exist everywhere, and frankly, if you apply to an organization and they turn their nose up because you got your degree from, University of Phoenix or DeVry or wherever, they're not somebody that you want to work with anyway. And so I have seen the discrimination a little bit, but again, it's like in these subsections, I haven't seen it as much with like state schools, those types of things. There are some places though, right? Like a Deloitte or a McKinsey. And I only use those companies, not to insinuate anything, but I'm more so saying I use those companies as examples, that these are known to be prestigious companies. They are known to be competitive companies. So they may be looking at students who come from where they know there is a competitive rigor to their academic programs. Um, um, and so, at those types of institutions, they may care about tiers, but I've interviewed folks who have only done community colleges and they have their associate's degrees and they're excellent at what they do. It all boils down to how you communicate your experience at those institutions. And then from there, like I said, don't work for a space where you're not going to be appreciated for your education, because you worked your butt off and you deserve to be celebrated for that. Great question. Thank you. So now I'm going to jump into the standardized like training resume that I use for a lot of my trainings whenever I am talking about these different principles. Because, like I said in my video that I posted today, there are some major red flags that kind of pop up that I've noticed in the over the past decade. That ooh that pops up. So I want to ensure that everybody is set up for success here. Really quick though, I see a question here. Hi, I'm interested in joining the How to File an EEOC claim group that starts tomorrow. I remember seeing this opportunity but cannot find the link. If you are interested in the How to File an EEOC claim group, that is a cohort that technically starts tomorrow. If you are interested in that opportunity, Savannah is going to be submitting a link in the chat here, and worst comes to it, I will also put it in my link in bio so folks can get access to it as well. So thank you, Yvette, for inquiring. First things first, y'all. Please make sure that your resumes are simplified. A lot of these ATS systems cannot pick up colors, pictures, graphics, different things like that. And for you, as you are, navigating the process, you can see here it's clean, it's organized, it's simple, it's with a standardized font. Again, I know that this is super tedious and annoying, but what you're not being taught is that a lot of these systems are super sensitive and they will kick out for the silliest of reasons. In fact, I have many examples in my career where an actually qualified candidate was kicked from the process because the ATS system configured the review incorrectly. And so, if this is something that you have a bunch of stuff and graphs and lines and think, please remove those from your resume to ensure that it's streamlined. The other thing, right, going back to those subcategories, you can see here that there are a ton of subcategories for this resume. And that is to aid you again, and that's storytelling. You want to communicate to that AI, oh, this person's been doing this for a long time, and here's how they've been doing it. Same thing goes for anyone else who is no matter what your industry or your role is, all of it's applicable. Find those keywords and use those as subheaders so that you can tell the story, and also tell the story um um for you can use a similar situation for your cover letters as well. But let me just, go back to saying that there is nothing inherently wrong with having a gap on your resume. And I just want to stress that if you have one, like I've said before on my platform, I have been unemployed for an extended period of time where I'm applying to hundreds of jobs a week. I'm doing what I can to try to, like, maybe not hundreds of jobs a week, but you get it. I'm applying to a lot, just like everybody else, optimizing everything, trying to go through interviews, doing virtual interviews, all these things. And the most important thing is that you communicate what you were doing during that time, and how you were applying yourself. And now is the time. If you are like Beverly, I haven't been doing anything during this time, or first of all, that's not true. You've been doing a lot. If you've been helping your family, if you've been helping your friends on the side, if you've been doing stuff, really dig deep, even if it's something as small as, like, maybe one day you spent time helping your friend organize your closet, or their closet, or you spent a whole day, helping somebody with a construction project, whatever it is, that's all work. And it's all work that can be reflected with those subcategories on your resume, depending on where you're going. And the same thing applies too for if you are uh going to try to make a career pivot. Think about, okay, what can I do now? Maybe I want to be in the music industry. Is there a music nonprofit that's near me that could use some volunteer hours with something I can do? Like, not don't just volunteer to volunteer, but like if you are somebody who is an accountant and you've been looking for accountant roles, follow up with a mission driven group near you and inquire and see, okay, is there do you have any availability for some accountant work I can support on the side for 5 hours? Frankly, some of these organizations may even be able to hire you after a little bit of time. So that's an avenue. Don't just, volunteer to volunteer, but try to find some applicable support. And even like mom and pop shops, little coffee shops, things like that that you frequent and you enjoy, you can start that now. And those 5 hours a week, like when I was unemployed, it really, really helped me to uh um I was going to Zumba frequently, and right around the time that I got my job after being unemployed for a little bit, I was unemployed for so long that I was like, "Oh, I gotta make something work," and they had an opening at the Zumba studio I was going to for a front desk worker, and I was, like, this close. to applying to it and being like, "Hey, I come here all the time. I love this studio. I love the energy. I love what it's about." And I had asked the owner about like the opportunity. She's like, "Yeah, we see you all the time. We'd love to talk about it." And like a week later, I got the another opportunity. So, think about and this can also apply virtually too. If there are I get pitches for this a lot and it always breaks my heart that I can't hire just yet, but I am working on it. So like keep your fingers crossed because and toes crossed because I am working on it. But I get pitched a lot. If you have creators that you really love and you're like, hey, I could really use the work and the experience, can I help you with some graphics? Can I help you with this? Can I help you with that? There are people that you like. Obviously, I'm an ethical creator, so I want to pay the people who work for me. But for other businesses or mission driven organizations who have a volunteer based structure, that can really be an avenue for you, a couple hours a week that becomes a job description. I do want to open up the floor to any questions, both from if you're watching from YouTube, if you're watching from our newsletter community, if you're watching from Instagram, if you have any questions, please let me know about what you think of these different things. And like I said, and Savannah, maybe if you can put it in the chat here in StreamYard, the link for the strategic gap framework. And definitely go to my link in bio if you are able to grab that because it's only going to be $3 until midnight tonight. So thank you so much, Savannah. So make sure that you grab that while it's $3. And then beyond that, y'all, it's the first day of Black History Month. So happy Black History Month. I'm excited. I um it's been so cool seeing, oh my gosh, and what a great way to celebrate Black History Month by also highlighting that yours truly just celebrated 200,000 community members here on Instagram. And I'm about to hit 500 community members on YouTube. I am so, so, so grateful to your support, for the community, the connection. If you would like to support me, directly, maybe you don't need resume support. Maybe you don't need a one-on-one with me. Maybe you're just like, Beverly, I like what you're doing. I like your style and I want to support. I have an Amazon creator wish list. If you want to support one of your favorite chocolate creators here for Black History Month, you can go to my link in bio, or if you are watching via StreamYard, I just put the link to my Amazon creator wish list. All of those things, including, so these lights that you see here, were gifted by community members. This microphone was gifted by a community member. This infrastructure is a community led and community built system. And so, if you would like to support me, please head to my link in bio. If there's something you want to grab and gift your girl, as well as I put it in the link there too, so we can celebrate together. Because I am truly grateful to be here, and I'm just so proud of the work that I've been able to do in partnership with all of you, and just more to come from here. But and thank you all. I see you on Instagram. Thank you so much. So you can grab that link in bio if you want to. Gift giving is my love language. So if you want to, grab that link and grab me something, you can. But of course, it's not obligated. I appreciate you being here and being on live with us. If you're just joining now and you're like, Beverly, what are you doing? I thought we were meeting at 7 p.m. Please forgive me for the little scheduling snafu. We are testing out different times because we want to see if 7 p.m. is too late for our East Coast our brethren, and we're trying out 6 p.m. So thanks for jumping on. If you have any questions though, please let me know. Um, uh, uh, and I will be on standby for any and all questions. And like I said before, as it relates to gaps on your resume, it is really, really, really imperative that you are not blaming yourself, not feeling bad about yourself. Don't let listen, don't let these people drive you nuts. I know that's really hard to better said than done because it is insane out here right now, but just know that you're working really hard, you're doing great, and I appreciate the questions, especially because I got so many questions about gaps on resumes that I'm like, you know what, that's going to be our Sunday Scaries theme for today. So that is our initial session. Like I said, if you want these themes, Savannah shared in the StreamYard channel the link for the strategic gap framework, as well as I shared the creator wish list. But beyond that, though, like I said, if you want to work with me directly, please make sure that you go to my link in bio because I do have one-on-one sessions with me where you can get to work with me. And if you and I haven't worked together before, you get 50% off your first session with me too. So that is wow. We did a lot in an hour, y'all. But I'm going to be on standby for any initial questions. And if you have questions that don't relate to our topic today, I am more than happy to answer some with some of the remaining time that we have for Sunday Scaries today, too. So if you have something that's burning, you want to ask before you head into this week, maybe you got an interview coming up, maybe you got a meeting coming up with your boss, whatever it is, I'm happy to take a look and answer that as well as we get ready to take on the week. And also, we have the Grammys today. I saw Kaylani won. Come pick up your clothes. I had them folded. Meet me in the dark. I was really excited to see that. And so hopefully folks are staying warm too. As we, we prepare for the week. But if there are any questions, let me know. If not, what do they say in corporate? I'll give you some time back. LOL. It's 7, so but like I said, if you want these templates, please make sure that you grab your strategic gap framework. I see some folks here are grabbing it. Great work. Like I said, it's only going to be $3 until midnight. So if you want it at this price point, make sure that you grab it. And like I said, yeah, I'm glad she won too. I am so glad she won. She ate that. Um, yeah. Somebody said insane. Yep, yep, yep. Oh, that's so I have not had anybody ask that before. Let me see if I can pull it up. Um, that's so can there be a Thank you, Savannah. I was trying to type it out. Thank you. So we just got to really this is such a sweet question. So somebody asked, let me put it on the screen here. Can there be a fun virtual meetup at some point? And then they later commented, no work questions. I think that's really sweet. There's actually a couple of ways that you can have meetups with me. First, I have my live stream, so I've been going been going live a lot more frequently on Instagram to kind of chat with the community, talk a little bit of everything, because there's a lot going on in the world right now. And so, absolutely. The other avenue is I do have this. So, a lot of you are watching from Instagram, but I have a dedicated community of folks who are actually watching through a specific link that's sent out to my newsletter community. So, I do Sunday Scaries every Sunday, but I also have some other initiatives that are often newsletter exclusive where we do get to connect as a community and I get to meet meet folks a lot more intentionally. So if you are not part of my newsletter community, a couple things happen. The first is if you purchase a product from me, you automatically become a part of my newsletter community. But also, if you are not in a position to purchase something right now, you can go to my link in bio on my website. If you scroll all the way down, you'll see a bunch of free resources, and you can grab a free resource, which will also add you to the community as well. And so, once I have one off opportunities, you absolutely can come. I do want to ask though, do I have anybody who is watching who is in the Chicagoland area? Because one way you can actually meet me in person is on February 22nd. I let my newsletter community know, but I'm also, letting my live community know that on February 22nd, I am going to be a featured creator at Karaoke Storytellers. For those who don't know, I am a little bit obsessed with karaoke. At one point, I was a regular at like 8 different karaoke spots in Chicago, and I'm not exaggerating. It is such an amazing outlet, but also Karaoke Storytellers is an amazing space that allows creators to not only tell a story but also sing alongside an audience of folks, where we join in community, and it's a really beautiful space. So if you've ever wanted to meet me and you are in the Chicagoland area, that is a avenue where you and I can connect at Karaoke Storytellers, and that is on February 22nd. So if you want more information on that, you can go to Karaoke Storytellers here on Instagram. You can also Google it. Um, and you can grab tickets. I think it's on Eventbrite too, but I might send out another reminder to my newsletter community, but I definitely want to see you if you're in the Chicagoland area. It would be great to meet members of the community, um to hang out and really watch some awesome stories together, and share as well. Just got another question. Let's see. I love this. Aha. What is your go-to song? So this question's coming from Instagram. What is my go-to song? Well, that's a little hard because I have a repertoire. I have my phone here, and I do have a repertoire of songs depending on the mood. Here's what I will say about karaoke, and this will be our last question of the night. The first thing is that I'm big on mood. If I notice that, and this is what happens when you're a regular at different places that do karaoke. If it's like a weekday and it's clear that folks have had a rough week, they're tired, they want to sing, ballads, they're trying to sing rock songs, they are tired. I'm not going to come up there and sing like show tunes. So in those essences, I really love singing Alicia Keys, If I Ain't Got You. I really love maybe gosh, some Adele. Um I love that. And my go-to though, if ever like there's a big crowd, and I can tell the energy's a little flat, I might pull out some I want to dance with somebody. That's always a crowd pleaser. But then like sometimes I'll go totally rogue and do Paramore and Evanescence and other things. So it really depends. But needless to say, my favorite part about karaoke is that it really does bring people together, and it's so cool meeting people from all walks of life, to sing their favorite songs, and you also get to experience music in a completely beautiful way, in ways that isn't just drunk folk singing, which is sometimes the case, but a lot of times it's folks who just really want to get a song out before they head out for the night, or they come in, they sing a song, they go home. And I really love the community that karaoke builds. So what a fun way to end our session today. So like I said before, if you are um passionate about pivoting, or beating these ATS systems, make sure you grab the strategic rap framework for me, and that way you can get these tools so you can make those pivots quickly. Additionally, if you want to be in the EEOC cohort, I just saw that Yvette registered. I'm so excited, Yvette, to see you. Um, and our first session tomorrow, Um, for a little bit more information on that, the EEOC cohort is how to file with the EEOC without a lawyer. We start tomorrow, and it's a couple of weeks of like really intensive uh uh support so that you have everything you need to file in the event that you are looking to get justice for your workplace situation. So if you are interested in registering for that, because registrations for that close by midnight tonight, please either fill out the registration form that Savannah put in the chat, or you can send me a DM letting me know that you are interested in the claims cohort, or actually an email at this point since it's 7 p.m. And then I can get you that link so you can be in the room with us when we start tomorrow. Otherwise, I hope you have an incredible rest of your night. Thank you so much for being on for Sunday Scaries. We will be back before you know it. And in the meantime, if you want to meet with me before next week or you want to see my face outside of just content, please head to my link in bio to grab a session with me. And I look forward to partnering with you. All right, y'all have an amazing night.